Michelle, are you ready?
I was born ready.
She's an award-winning author, speaker, and podcast host who serves on the National Faith Advisory Council. She supported Donald J. Trump for president before it was cool. From her she shed in her beautiful backyard, this is the Michelle Moore Show.
I dwell in the shadow of the Most High. Under His wings I'm safe tonight. Trouble may rise, the storm may roll, but His truth's a shield, it covers my soul. Oh, Lord, You are my refuge.
Yes, He's my refuge.
My fortress and my song.
He keeps me strong.
Through the fire, through the valley, You're the strength I lean upon. 10,000 falling at my side, still Your hand will be my guide. Angels watch me day and night. Till morning light. Oh Lord, You are my refuge.
Yes, He's my refuge.
My fortress and my song.
He keeps me strong.
Through the fire, through the valley, You're the strength I lean upon. I will not fear the arrow that flies by day, nor the terror that walks in the night. For the Lord is with me. He is my salvation, my everlasting light. Oh Lord, You are my refuge.
Yes, He's my refuge.
My fortress and my song.
He keeps me strong.
Through the fire, through the valley, You're the strength I lean upon. Leaning on You, Lord. Leaning on You.
Hi, everybody. I just love that song. It looks AI to me. I don't know. It looks AI generated. Probably, I don't know. But anyways, at least the video. Who knows what the song is too? Who knows? But I saw where Black Diamond 7708 on YouTube said, look at this. She says, Steve Jarvis is a national treasure. Thank you, Michelle, for recognizing him. I agree. He's been doing a lot of hard work, and I think that is a great way to put it. Mississippi Granny on YouTube also says, yes, he is very much needed. because he tells the truth for the right reasons. He's also done it and knows what he's talking about. That's right. That's right. So we're going to hear firsthand from him why he left MAHA. So he was here Friday, and then Saturday I got word that he left. And so I said, what is going on? What happened? Something had to have happened. I felt like I, was hoping that he wasn't going to leave, and I knew there had to be something, and sure enough, there was. So he's going to be sharing that. It's Monday. I do want to say, for those that don't know, Mark Taylor is taking a little bit of time off to be able to kind of just really focus on his family. His father has been extremely sick. I spoke with him over the weekend or texted Saturday morning and found out that his father was still at home, is stable, not doing well. But so please keep Mark in your and his family in your prayers. Got an email this morning, producer Ron did, and he shared it with me. It turns out Godly Granny has made it to France. Let's take a look. So we have Mimi, which is one of our viewers and customers. She's one of our Michelle family members, and she says, Michelle, FYI, Godly Granny's made it to France today. Look at this. Let's see. And then she says, awesome. I bet she got some healthy, hydrated lips, though. Look at her. Isn't she great? That's so pretty. That's just awesome in every way. I love it. I thought that was so fun. I wanted to share it with you. Also, just in case you don't know, I said something the other day about the honey. We launched a whole gourmet line of honey. There was so much planning into this, so excited about it. And then we started having problems with it like leaking. And so it wasn't exploding. There were no cracks. Everything was absolutely excellent and has been with this honey line. It has just been amazing. And so we couldn't figure it out. The word we've all been using is baffling. We've all been baffled about what's going on. And so I had something happen last week. I started getting emails immediately. Friday night, text messages also. Saturday, got emails, people saying, look, you can't get rid of the honey. It's absolutely amazing. So this is what I did. I had a moment where I received something a few days ago. I think it was Thursday night, and it was liquid, and it had been wrapped. And I took it off and with this tapey kind of stuff, sticky stuff. And I thought, well, this looks like electrical tape. And so I showed it to my husband, and he said, yes, this is electrical tape. So I got some yesterday morning, and we have wrapped some of the honey jars that have gone out. And so I'm going to see if there's any leaking or if that's just what's going on. Last night I was on Amazon, and a video popped up showing about another liquid jar and glass jar with liquid in it. And it was showing that it was another product that would wrap it and kind of, I don't know if that's what it needs or what, because there isn't any kind of a wrapping or anything like that on it. So we have done it. In fact, the electrical tape was actually perfect. So, and what I bought that had the electrical tape on it was perfectly dry and didn't leak in any way, shape, or form. So the way the honey works, it looks amazing. So Alexandria says, I got 4 jars and did not have a problem. That's such a shame. Yes, it's crazy. Charisse Rose says, my infused vanilla bean honey is beautiful and arrived wonderful. That's great news. So we've already sent out numerous jars just since yesterday, and today packaged them up, and they went out today. And so, oh my goodness, we probably had at least 100 packages go out today. Oh, by the way, if you've placed an order with Godly Granny, it's gone. Like, it's already out and at the post office and on its way. And so as late as about 1 o'clock today, KM Sunshine, you were the first order after they left to go to the post office. So yours will go out tomorrow and everybody else after. But we're on it. So if you're ordering Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, whatever it might be, we are on it. And we're doing everything we can to make sure you have what you've ordered as quickly as possible. We can't control the postal service, but we can control how fast we get it to the postal service. And we are on it. Skater 9 says, I got 2 and no problem. The problem is we've shipped out so many and we've had so many issues with it. Pierre's mom says, Michelle, is it possible to put the honey in straws? We were already planning that. There's a product for that as well. And then also some other products as well with the same gourmet line. So we'll see. Look at you already knowing what's coming. I've seen them in straws at my local store. Yes. And so it's the same thing. And so I was laying in bed the other night thinking about that and remembering that, like, there's some other products. It's just, we got to figure out these glass jars because the honey is absolutely phenomenal. No Nonsense Netta says that Godly Granny made it here about 4 hours ago after a 2-day weather delay. After it defrosted, the vanilla mint lip butter is perfectly yummy. I bet it is. That's amazing. So, okay, so I'm glad to hear all of that. That's amazing. Okay, so but just want you to know, if you've placed an order, you should be able to know good and well that it is on its way. If you place an order sometime today, the same thing in the morning, everything will be packaged up and ready to go. In fact, the girls are there today and already packaging up everything that's come in since then order-wise. So it'll all be ready to go tomorrow. All right, so that was a lot. I got to tell you, my mind's been blown on something that Steve just told me right before we went live. And so we have got so much to tell you guys. It's crazy. And I came across a video on Saturday morning that I actually I have for you today that I want you to see. And then Steve also has an interview, and he's going to give us some insight to what happened when it came to MAHA and their media stuff that they do. And so we're gonna show you a clip of that in a minute with him, and then also we're gonna show it in its entirety later on in the show toward the end after our time with him. So let's go on and bring in 5th generation farmer and former ex MAHA member Steve Jarvis. Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
Very good. X is good. Well, it's the only X you can do. That's good.
Okay. Well, I feel sad because I have loved having the connection with you and knowing that you're so well connected with so many of these people and doctors that are with MAHA. And so I had to tell myself this morning, odds are you still have great connections. You'll still have information. You'll still be able to know what's going on and keep us abreast of what's going on. So, okay. So you left. So you were here Friday. You said I might leave. And, I kind of got the impression you weren't going to leave, that you were going to kind of, hobble along. And then when we talked Saturday, you were like, oh no, I left, and you found out some information. And so because I said, what's the straw that broke the camel's back? What happened? Something's happened. I know it. And you said, yes, there is something major that has happened. And I said, what? And then you told me, and I said, you got to come on the show and explain this to the viewers.
So the straw that broke the camel's back is, so number one in my farm plan, new viewers here, you have to realize I wrote a plan to create 1 million new 40-acre farms. But number one in my farm plan is to stop weather modification. And what I found out it's under the new bill that just passed, the NDAA bill. It's 14,000 like something pages. I don't know if y'all have time to read 14,000 some of pages, but my team worked on this, and what we did, we found out that the weather modification looks like, we know it's funded through 2026, but it may be funded all the way through 2036. So 10 years of funding for weather modification. And I'm like, what am I doing in MAHA when I'm not making a difference in the number one thing that's in my farm plan? And that was the final straw for me. And I will tell you this, nobody in MAHA knew it.
Well, what about the leadership with MAHA? Did they know it?
No, they don't. Well, you don't know if they know it or not. No, I don't think they know it. No.
Okay.
But that's the thing but listen, folks, what you have to look up is they've changed the wording in weather modification. Now it's called weather operations and electromagnetic warfare. And then the money. So the 3 sections in that bill, 14,800 something pages, there's 3 little hidden things: AI, weather operations, and then electromagnetic warfare, which is 6G. Okay. So we've talked about this, about the levels of weather modification and what they are, and the AT&T towers and Verizon and all that stuff have a big role in this. That said, what you have to realize is in all that data, the money is showed to be funded through 2026, but it looks like to me it may be a 10-year plan. That part I can't figure out, but it looks like it may be for 10 years. I'm like, well, what am I doing here? When RFK came to my farm, and the number one thing I said to him was, Secretary Kennedy, if we can't get this stopped, none of this farm stuff we're going to do will matter.
Yeah, it's just a waste of time. And you've said that on our show repeatedly over and over, that the number one thing to worry about is to make sure that they quit the spraying, because everything else just won't matter. We've got to get that done first. First things first with all of this. And so you've been very consistent with that. I would only expect that you would have said that to him, because that's right in line with what I've always heard you say here on the show and in our conversations, even on the phone. Okay, so there's been a lot of things that's happened. This was the first thing. So you leave MAHA. Who do you tell? Who did you tell that you were leaving?
Well, so I'm in these Signal chat groups that we're, part of the big MAHA, and then there's broken groups out of that. Ag MAHA, Geoengineering MAHA, there's Health Resource MAHA, there's all these groups. I literally left all those groups. I literally clicked in, left the chat, left the group. I'm not even in there anymore. The roundtable group, that group there, that's where I posted the message to everyone in there. I will tell y'all, the people that are understanding where I'm coming from, have been listening to me, they're in MAHA, they are still connected to me. I don't have to be part of MAHA to have a voice, what's going on in America. But I wanted to go over the top 5 things of why I left. The number one is when I, people said, please don't leave MAHA, please don't do this. I said, why should I stay here? Why should I stay when weather modification just got funded through 2026 for sure? Okay. And in my farm plan, number one in my farm plan is to stop this. But the number 2 would be the people in MAHA. It's hard to tell whether they're on our side or they just don't know what they're talking about. But the people in MAHA that are in this group, what they've done, they've gotten access to Brooke Rollins, they've got access to Bobby Kennedy, and they don't know what they're talking about and the things they are presenting, and they're not listening to myself and Brian Massard. Number 3.
Well, wait a minute. I don't want you to just run through it now. I got a question about this. So how is it that you, who have already been to DC numerous times, even presented in front of MAHA, even was interviewed, and we're going to show part of this interview and then in its entirety later, but you even do this MAHA Institute interview. How is it that you haven't been able to have meetings with Brooke Rollins, which I know you have personally tried to do over and over? You come on the show and talk about it. You've talked about it with me. How is it that these people have never even had a farm, are able to have these meetings, and yet you haven't been able to? What is going on with that?
Well, I think the big thing is one of the things that the adversary does in government, especially, probably in everything, but probably in government, is delay, because that's their game plan. I mean, now the year is over. I mean, 2025 is over for the government. The government's not going to do anything. Now, that said, there is still a plan that may happen. The PED plan that I've talked about, the emergency plan, that was sent to all 4 departments, USDA, FDA. Cali means he's not a department, but he's connected to President Trump. The USDA, and then SBA has it, and that plan was sent and launched this morning. So I'm not giving up completely on this, and I'm not giving up at all on what I'm fighting for, because the issue is we, the American people, we're the ones that are going to fix this. And that leads into the third thing. The reason that I've met with people who have the money to be able to fix this problem, and I don't want MAHA to get any credit for this. Does that make sense?
Yes. And
I mean,
do you think they would try to get credit for what you're doing?
Well, sure. That's what they want to do. If you're part of the MAHA coalition and you wind up solving these huge problems and you get money, there are 2 things in DC that I learned while I was there: ego and money. They go hand in hand. If their ego is hurt, or they don't have money or have money, that's the problem. And so I'm connecting with people that do have the money to fix this problem privately, and I don't want MAHA to get any credit. Sorry, Secretary Kennedy.
All right. What's number 4?
Number four would be MAHA has lost its way. And what I mean by that is Michelle, I meant to bring in my red dye donuts and red Kool-Aid and Doritos. I was going to eat those during the show, but MAHA has lost its way. They don't know how to they don't know how to win. That's the problem. I mean, there's some great people in there. They've got great ideas. They've got but they don't have a good strategy, and especially with what's going on. And Stephanie Spears connected with, everything goes to Stephanie Spears before it gets to Bobby Kennedy. And I feel like that she is directing the path, and MAHA has lost its way. They're not winning on anything, really.
Okay, I want to ask you about something. Wait a minute with this. So, what I think about is where you told me that you had gotten a call and they had asked you, to be nice or play nice. It was about playing nice. You remember there was a politician that on his website, he had his phone number. And so you took to social media and you told the phone number and you called on the people to call the phone number and to tell them. Can you tell that story and what happened? Because I don't even remember the specifics about it, but you got a phone call and they were asking you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth and don't want to change it. I want to make sure we're accurate here, but it was something like playing nice. And to give them 2 weeks. What you ended up doing was they ended up asking you to give them like 2 weeks. Can you tell that whole story?
Okay, so when Secretary Kennedy came to my farm, there were a lot of people that were in government in the state of Idaho. The Speaker of the House, another person, Josh Tanner, who's in the House of Representatives. Several senators came that are on, they're with Bobby Kennedy and what he's doing. They came to the farm to be in cahoots with whatever was going on with my plan. They really weren't interested in what I was doing. And so when I approached the House Speaker of the state of Idaho and said, hey, listen, I need you guys to introduce this, the Mystic Bill. The Mystic Bill is a stop weather modification. This is most important. We got to get this done. And he said, oh, that's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Gave me all this big excuses. I said, I don't like the word can't, so please don't use that word. And then I said, I have social media. And I said, one of my videos, that video that was on Palantir and the water that broke out over Kerr County, that video had 300 million views. I said, listen, I have access to 100 million people in America. They are the peasants of America. They understand America, and they're the strong and the backbone of America. I can reach out to them and they will stand behind what I'm doing, and they will help any politician or crucify any politician. And he said social media didn't matter. And
yeah. Okay.
So here's the Speaker of the House of Idaho, which I'll just tell you, he doesn't ever need to be reelected again anyway. He doesn't understand what's going on in the world, and he doesn't understand that social media is the vehicle to win what's going on in America. So when he said that to me, the next day I made a video and posted about, and his cell number was on his own platform. I did not personally get his cell number, folks, and I did not give it out. I gave his information that he had on his own website, and he had 10,000 messages the next morning saying, bro, what are you doing? So the head of the Republican Party called me out of Idaho. I had people, Republican Party, call me out of DC and said, bro, what are you doing? I said, this is just a shot over the bow. You know what matters? Here's what matters. You, the American people, you have power and you don't realize it. And if you'll use this, especially with voices like mine, when I speak up and I write all these things and write policy and say, if you'll go this way, this will work. And if you go this way, it won't work. That's what he realized. What he realized is 10,000 messages were on his cell phone the next morning. And everybody was all mad. But the real thing is why is he mad when I just proved to him the American people can take care of things exactly like that, and he's not taking care of anything.
Okay. But you were asked, who asked you to kind of lay low for a couple of weeks and give people time or whatever and to play nice? Who did that?
I'm not going to give those names out. But
oh, okay. Sorry.
No, listen, no, it's fine. Ask away. I don't think it's important. Look, it's just top people in MAHA. Okay.
But it's in MAHA. It was part of the MAHA coalition.
100%.
And that's what I'm getting to. It's not that I'm wanting to know who exactly, but that's the point. It has to do with MAHA. And this goes back to what you said about they've lost their way and they don't know how to win. This is about not knowing how to win. And that's why it made me think about this story. And I just couldn't remember the details. But yes, that's very concerning to me.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, since that time, I've worked in 6 states getting my Mystic Bill to these people who can do something in your states. And folks, listen, in the 50 states of the United States, they can stop weather modification. Please don't believe all that BS about, well, we only have access to 400 feet, blah, blah, blah. All that. You get 35 states on board, we can do this. We arrest the pilot. They go to jail. I mean, it can be done. These people in leadership, when I meet people in leadership and they say, oh, that can't be done, I know they shouldn't be in leadership, because I thought leadership is where you're the person who can do things. That's the issue. And that's what's happened with MAHA. All these people, we have tons and tons of people with all this information through the vaccines, through foods, through soil health, all this stuff. And we're just sideswiped, and we get delayed and everything else. And now we're fixing to go into the second year of President Trump's term, and nothing's been done. And you know how dangerous that is? Because even let's talk about the part about processing foods. It takes 2 years to build a new processing center. So by the time it all gets rolling, I mean, President Trump could be out of office and we have some other clown in there.
Oh, talking about clowns in office, let's take a look at some breaking news today. Here we go again. Kamala Harris preps for the 2028 presidential run. That's a clown. And so, I mean, I thought to myself, you know, if she ends up being the first female president of the United States of America, I give up. I mean, this is just insanity.
Well, it looks like to me that it's just ping pong. And I tell this to my wife all the time. I said, you know what you have to really realize is like the Food Babe, for instance. She's big MAHA. She's on every broadcast there was early on in MAHA. Food this, red dye this. You do not have to, you know, if you don't get rid of red dye out of Doritos and donuts and all that, and Kool-Aid and all that stuff, and Gatorade, it's not the end of the world. You're the one that goes in the store. You can buy it or not buy it. It's not the end of the world. And that's the big push is that we're going to win on red dye when farms are dying across America. I've got a new video coming out that's going to give you detail of how the farms in America started and have been burning down and are going to be completely burned up. So that video is coming out soon.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. All right, you've been saying leave the big guys alone. JBS now has announced, this was just on Friday, that they're going to close their California beef plant. And so tell us why, even though they're the big four, why this is bad. Explain it, if you would, please, Steve.
Okay, so let's just boil this down to Potlatch, Idaho, where I live. Little bitty tiny community. If you wanted to butcher a steer and you said, hey, you know, I think I just want to have a steer butchered or a hog butchered, you call up the little bitty packing plant here and you say, hey, when can I get a date to have a steer butchered? It's 14 months from today. So what are you going to eat between now and 14 months? This is the problem. The processing centers are not available across America, folks. The small processing centers are gone or close to bankruptcy or done. And I said, leave the big four packers. This is the problem. This is one of the reasons. This is part of number 4 of why I left MAHA. They're not listening. You want to go after the 4 big packers. You want to go after that. You want to go after Monsanto. They always want to fight these big guys that have enough lawyers to tie everybody up in MAHA for 10 years. I said, leave all those guys alone. Let's build a new system. We're so tiny. We'll build a new system. We do that. But when you start attacking these big packers, this is what happens. Nebraska lost. 3,200 families don't have a job. So here you are. Merry Christmas. You're in Nebraska. 1,700 people are going to lose their jobs in Amarillo. That's coming down the pike next. Most people don't know about that. That's what's coming next. That's another one, big beef processing plant. And now JBS is doing it. And I told them leave them alone, because what are you going to do? You're going to go out. Is everything on the up and up in the 4 big packers? And do I support the 4 big packers? No. But I'm going to leave them alone until I can get my facility set up to do my own processing. That is the name of the game. And nobody listening to MAHA.
Yeah, you have to be calculating and smart. And I get what you're saying. And you've been saying that consistently here on the show. Leave them alone. They have their own part in there. We don't want to be, supporting them, but yet you've got to leave them alone because they can cause more trouble than they're worth, just like with these jobs right now, what's happened right before the holidays, and so it's crazy. What's the other one that's coming next that you said? Where is it located?
Amarillo.
Okay. Who owns that one?
I'm pretty sure Tyson owns that one.
So Tyson's closing another one, because wasn't it Tyson that closed the Arkansas location?
Nebraska. Yeah, the Nebraska location was closed by Tyson. JBS closed this one in California. My understanding is they're not completely closing the one in Amarillo. They're just going to lay off 1,700 workers. Merry Christmas.
So why? What is the reason?
Well, they're consolidating their butchering. That's what they're doing. They're moving these cattle and all these hogs and things to another location. That's what they're going to do. They're going to consolidate because the people in MAHA and the people, you purist out here in America, you purist, I tell you what, the purist in MAHA and the purist outside of MAHA, you got to go organic. You got to have not the processors. You guys are a bigger problem than Bayer and Monsanto. You guys are a bigger problem than JBS and all the 4 big packers. You're the problem. Okay. Please just listen to what I'm saying. You guys want everything organic. Nothing is organic because of the spray. I've been preaching this stuff in MAHA, and you want the 4 big packers. You don't have a processing. You don't grow enough food, and you're trying to feed the nation. Please stop looking this out your window in your garden and look at this from a 90,000 foot view over America. This is a nation. It takes a ton of food every single day, tons and tons of food to feed this nation. And you're going to wake up, and because you're a purist, it's your fault. Don't blame the 4 big packers. You want it. You call all those people in Nebraska and you tell them, I'm sorry you're losing your job. No, send them some money or something, because you know what? They got to figure out what they're going to do for a living.
Well, what is it that the purists are doing that, because we've had this conversation before, just on the phone. I don't remember if we have on the show, but what are they doing that is so against being productive in this fight?
So there's 3 levels to this fight. You have the big giant farms that use all these chemicals. And by the way, all these new 12 chemicals just approved by the EPA to be sprayed over your crops. One of them is a mRNA spray for potatoes, folks. And what it's going to do is genetically alter that plant while it's in the ground. Very dangerous. So you got that group.
Wait a minute. Who approved that?
EPA, Lee Zeldin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you've got that group. You got this big group that they're growing food, and they're going to use every kind of chemical known to man, genetically modified. Then you have the group that is the purist group. Okay. So you got the purist group. The purist group believes, well, we're going to just grow organic. And you know what? In the mountains, they're calving out calves in the mountains, and there's no wolves, and there's no ice storms, there's no pneumonia, there's no, in southern Texas, there's no rattlesnakes where animals, it's this purist movement where they believe a calf is born and magically this rainbow appears, and it's all organic, and blackleg doesn't exist, and all these things that kill animals. And the thing about it is that parasites and worms, if you just let this cow magically just raise this calf on green meadows in the middle of nowhere, that is magically just calf never has any problems or worms or anything. Folks, we live in a fallen world. Get a drink. Here's the issue. The middle part of the road is where Brian Massard and I, we understand that, no, you don't need to spray Agent Orange, and we know you don't need to vaccinate cattle and hogs with mRNA, but there is a way that's been that way, and we've raised American food for years. And did we use Malathion and Seven Dust? Your great grandma and grandpa used Seven Dust on their garden all the time, because when the potato beetles and all that came up, they sprinkled a little bit of it. No, did they go out there with a flamethrower full of Agent Orange and spray the whole garden? No. But this is the problem. You purists, you're the problem. Get on my page and save American farms and stop being so pure. And it's not pure anyway, because I've had 300 planes fly over me in the last 3 days that's spraying the crap out of us. And if you don't believe me, go look at all the flooding in Washington. Go look at the flooding, and 200,000 people are without homes, folks. Libby. So I'm stuck in the middle of this weather modification war in Libby, Montana. Go look it up. It's flooded. So 3.5 hours east of me and 4 hours west of me is underwater, folks, in mountain regions. Please help me. Stop being this purist punk.
Yeah. Because you can be so, like what you're saying is the purists are, it's I want to say anti-productive, it's just not helping.
It
And
won't work. It won't work. You know now Whole Foods is a joke.
yeah.
You've been buying this organic stuff and they've been playing you so long. They've been playing your game so long.
It's a lot.
It's a
Okay,
lot.
so all right, so we were on number 4 for your list. What was the 5th thing? So they quit. Number 4, just for those that don't remember, was that they've lost their way. They don't know how to win. What's number 5?
Number 5 is I have spent too much time, folks. This is no lie. Since November the 9th, 2024, I have spent, I don't know how many hours. If you calculate it and spread it all out, I've probably spent 8 hours a day nonstop and made no money. Zero. No money. Yes, did people donate money through the Michelle Moore show to pay for my tickets sometimes? Yes. But if I showed you the amount of hours I worked on this for zero, no money, too much time. I can't do this anymore, folks. I can't work this amount of hours to try to change the entire nation and not make a living. The only reason that I do survive financially is I'm out of debt and I grow and butcher and do everything myself. That's the only reason.
I think part of what you've also said is, it's difficult to continue to do something and be so heavily invested in something when you're not seeing any kind of a return. It's not even the financial return. It's you're not seeing the people actually doing what they need to be doing. And so just like what you said about, and then you find out that the new agreement that got passed, has the funding for the weather modification, warfare, whatever you want to call it. Of course, they're wordsmithers. They always change, aerosols, stratospheric aerosol injections become something else next week, And so it's why you were saying it's why it took your team so long to find where it had been funded, because they changed the verbiage. And so that's what you were talking about earlier, is the new verbiage when you were referring to what you found in there. It took the team quite a bit of time. And you were telling me that it actually, the way that the breakthrough happened was that, what was it? You put just the word weather into this. You all finally realized, wait a minute, let's just put the word weather in. And that's how you ended up finding what was going on. You didn't put weather warfare or any of the other stuff that's going on. And that's how the team ended up finding it. It's a shame, because like 14,000 pages anyways, come on. I mean, they do that and they bury things. We all know that they do that. And so we can't be too surprised. I think the surprising thing for me personally, it's just like the Lee Zeldin thing. And, he was appointed by Trump, and this Trump stuff is just continuing to get worse and worse. And so it's not very promising.
And part of number 5, why I left is in this part here. I can't spend this much time because financially, I'm not prospering. Okay. Am I paying my bills? Yeah, it's fine. I'm out of debt, but the other part is in number 5 is, if we can't fix the agrarian agriculture world in America with all the technology, Instagram, social media, and we have President Trump, we have Bobby Kennedy and Brooke Rollins, and we have the House, and we have the Senate, and we have Lee Zeldin, who's supposed to be, and we have SBA. And listen, the SBA guys are the best of the whole group. If they would just let them run with this, we could change America. But when we have this good of a group, we're talking about Kamala Harris running for 2028. She should have went ahead and won, and we would already would have known it was a complete disaster. She just would have done it a lot faster. You know what? I'd rather be on an ant bed an hour or two than be on there for a year and a half. So just saying, if it's going to burn down, please don't prolong the pain.
Oh my word. Okay. You remember on Friday when you were on, I think it was Friday, where we did the numbers. Remember the money that was announced, and you got everybody to get out the calculators. So it was, what was it? It was $12 billion, or what was it that were the numbers?
It was $12 billion divided by 700. It was $700 million divided by 2,100 offices that will displace that money.
And so you had said, get out your calculators. You know, we a lot of my viewers would know about the symbolism and have learned about all of the things about the numbers and everything. And I was talking about the KKK and how, you know, K is the 11th letter of the alphabet. And so when you have 11, 11, and 11, and you add those up, it's 33. And that's one of their big, you know, Freemason, Freemasonry, satanic stuff that they talk about. Even Walt Disney had the 33 Club on site at Disney World. And so there's all this stuff, right? And they also think that in order, like in witchcraft and stuff, they believe that in order for something to have its greatest power, that it comes in threes. And so it's just a thing they think. I don't, you know, it's not me. And so, anyways, and so the KKK, when you look at all that, it's very interesting. But when you got out the math, it was all threes. It was 33, 33, 33. It was all just threes. And so when you take those numbers and divide them by the number of offices, that they're saying that the money is going to get spread out, the money that Trump passed. Well, now, you know, obviously I live in the Nashville, Tennessee area. I've been a business professional in the Nashville area for over 3 decades. And I get the emails from the Nashville Business Journal. And so about an hour or so before we went live, I happen to check my emails and I see that I've gotten an email from the Nashville Business Journal. Let's take a look at this email, producer Ron. It says breaking. And then so it says record smashing $6.6 billion project lands near Nashville. Record smashing $6.6 billion project lands near Nashville. It says Korea Zinc and the Trump administration announced a record-setting project in Tennessee in which the two will spend $6.6 billion to undercut China's economic power. That investment will land in a city outside of Nashville that's become a hotbed of supersized economic development deals. And so it goes on to talk about that. But 3 times right there in just the headline, at the very top, and then the headline in the article, and then in the first sentence it tells you, so it says 6.6 billion, which is 66, 66, and 66. So it's talking about the Trump administration with Korea Zinc. And so, you know, I think it's just very interesting. Another 66, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. At some point, we're just looking at things going, you know, is this another calm? Is this another thing they're doing? And so it's part of that tradition, or whatever you want to call it, their rituals. And so, it makes me think back to the book that I read that Kathy O'Brien wrote, who was born into she wasn't born into it. She was sold into the Illuminati, into the MK Ultra program by her father. And so that's a really good book. It's called Transformation of America. And so Trance is the name of the book, and then the subtitle is Formation of America. And in that book, she talks about a lot of this stuff that goes on. And so, and she says, you know, there's a lot of the things that they do that kind of, you know, it's a nod to each other. She even said that one of the things that they do is it's like the bigger the con on the American people, the bigger the high fives and the accolades behind the scenes. That it's a game. It's a game. She said that she was also present one time at an event, and you know, she heard Daddy Bush, who's who I call him, Daddy Bush, tell Bill Clinton, "You got to be ready. You better be ready. The people are going to get tired of a Republican president, and you're up. You know, you're next. You got to be ready, Bill." And so and her thing is, there's no such thing as a Republican, and there's no such thing as a Democrat. I don't think that it's about I can't. I think it's that they won't. You know, it's just like with Nathan Reynolds. Nathan Reynolds says that there's so much testing that goes on when they're little and in the Illuminati or in this secret societies and stuff. He says there's so much testing that early on they know who is going to go into the military intelligence, who's going to become a politician, who's going to be an entertainer, who's going to do the production, who's going to write this and do that. Those things are decided very early on. And I listened to a woman who was born into the Illuminati, and she said the very same thing. She said, look, you know, they see themselves as purebreds. It's just like with dogs. She goes, they see themselves as purebreds, and we're all a bunch of mutts. And she said the only reason why she is still alive and allowed to live, even though she left, was because of her bloodline. And she said that's all they look at is bloodline. So but they look at all this testing. And she said, by the time you're 5, they've already determined what your role is for them. And how they're going to use you. And so, and a lot of this has to do with just naturally the giftings and the talents that you've been given. Okay. So just want to bring that up. Okay. Over the weekend, so Saturday morning, I saw a video, and this is a gentleman who was being interviewed. He's an Arkansas farmer. His name is Adam Chappell, and he was testifying to the crushing debt and rigged inputs of killing the rural America. He talks about the bailout cash. This was, of course, it looks like it was about October when this interview happened. And so it's before the recent bailout that happened, but he says some things in here, numerous things in here, that first of all was confirming a number of things that Steve Jarvis has been saying. So I called Steve and I asked Steve on Saturday, I said, hey, and this is when I found out he left MAHA, but I called him because I saw this video and I said, Steve, do you know this man? And he said, no, because I wanted to know, have you been talking to him? And so there's a lot that he talks about and he says in this video. And I think it's important, especially if you've been listening to the interviews that I've been having with Steve and the information that he's been sharing with us. This is somebody that Steve says, Steve doesn't even know this man, but yet they're both saying the same things from different states and from really in a lot of ways the same perspective, because they're farmers, they know farming and longtime farming. And so let's take a look at this video. We're going to watch it in its entirety, but take a look here. It's very interesting. It's about 12 minutes long.
Just say I was at all soybeans and $150 an acre loss. You're looking at $450,000 of loss. For just doing my job, I'm paying an additional $450,000 instead of making anything. I've never seen a crisis like this. Without intervention, we're talking about generational loss of farmers.
In the last year, farm bankruptcies here in Arkansas have nearly doubled. The story in the media is that's because of Trump's trade war with China. And now that China has agreed to a deal, the crisis will pass. But that story is wrong.
The tariffs are a problem, but think of it as being in a coffin, and we're going to nail the lid shut. The tariffs are the final nail.
This crisis was here before he did the tariff thing. This is a crisis that's been building for decades.
Farmers here told us a bigger story. A handful of companies have built a global system in which they always win, and American farmers are lucky to break even. All supported by our tax dollars.
They're just laundering tax money. None of it stays in the local community.
And while our farmers are dependent on growing crops for countries like China, we import more of our food than ever.
The bigger story is we're very vulnerable to the whims of other countries.
With thousands of farmers on the brink, we wanted to know, how did this happen? And if a deal with China won't save American farmers, what will?
We watch the markets every morning at 5:45. I get up and listen to Standard Grain. And Joe says it's 5:45 in the morning and the markets are.
Scott Brown is a row crop farmer who grows corn, rice, and soybeans.
I want to know what the price of soybeans is, how much we've exported this week.
The price of soybeans hit a high of $17 a bushel 3 years ago, but this year it's down to $10. That means many farmers will operate at a loss, but not just for soybeans.
So for cotton, soy, corn, and rice, the average loss per acre is $150 to $350 per acre.
Adam Chappell farms 2,400 acres about 2 hours from Scott. In September, Adam and Scott attended a meeting called for farmers to speak to their federal representatives.
Hundreds of farmers from across the state came to voice their concerns about the current state of farming.
It was a three-day notice on this meeting. We went from having 15 to 20 people to over 500.
We were in the start of harvest. For 500 farmers to get off of combines and go stand in a meeting is a big deal.
It was like a funeral in there. This is generations of farms teetering on the brink.
I'm in the worst shape right now that I've ever been in.
5 of my customers have committed suicide. That's how serious that is.
Without immediate government intervention, we're going to lose 30 to 40% of our farmers again this year. We lost 25 to 30% last year.
Farm debt is expected to reach $560 billion this year, a new record high. Facing pressure from farm states, President Trump has promised a federal aid package for farmers.
And we're going to take some of that tariff money that we made, we're going to give it to our farmers.
Over the last 8 years, the federal government has sent farmers over $130 billion in emergency aid. But when you follow where that money actually goes, it reveals who's really profiting from this system and why more bailouts won't fix it.
So when I get an aid package, okay, that money will never come to me. It comes straight through my hands into whoever I owe the money to.
When federal money is sent to farmers who have debts, like Adam, Scott, and most small farmers, they quickly pass it on to the companies they borrowed from to buy the products they need to farm, like seed, fertilizer, and machinery. And the combined costs of those inputs have risen far faster than what farmers can sell their crops for on the market. Farmers pay 3 times higher on inputs than they did in the 1990s.
What has gotten us to this point is the mergers and consolidations of ag input suppliers. In 2015, Monsanto and Bayer merged. They were competing against each other. And that was during Obama's administration. They didn't do a thing about that. They let it happen. They let it happen. When I started farming, we had 5 or 6 Arkansas-based seed companies. Monsanto.
How many are there?
There's none. There's none. They're all owned by Bayer or Pioneer.
In the last 40 years, thousands of seed companies have merged into 3. 46 fertilizer firms have merged into 4. And just 2 farm machinery companies dominate the markets for tractors and combines.
Just for easy numbers, say I'm going to make $500 an acre gross on an acre of whatever. Well, those companies know that, and they will price their stuff up to like $490. The lack of competition is the reason they can keep those prices inflated, and there's nothing we can do about it.
That ability to raise prices is a big part of why, while farmers are just breaking even, major input companies maintain steadily high profit margins.
I'm calling whatever the heck is happening in the world of agriculture a bull market of insane proportions.
They're going to push us up to the brink, and then when they tip us over the edge, they're going to go to the taxpayer for the balance. Instead of lowering their prices and taking a cut in their margin, they're just laundering tax money. This is it. That's the old elementary school. All the schools are closed now, but that's what's left of the elementary school. High school's completely gone. They demolished it. Had parts stores, restaurants, even just in my lifetime, we've lost a lot. This was a furniture store, bank. When I was a kid, cotton plant probably had 1,500 or 1,600 people in it. The difference is when I was a kid, there was probably 40 or 50 farmers around here. Well, now there's just like 4 or 5 of us left. And every time one of them goes out of business, that's less business for the parts store, that's less business for the restaurants. So every time consolidation happens, rural America dies a little bit more.
Since 1997, the U.S. has lost over 300,000 farms and now has fewer farms than ever in its history. In a functioning market, farmers with high input costs could just raise their selling prices. But on the selling side, they're getting squeezed just as hard by their buyers, the companies that control the global grain trade.
There's really about 4 big grain companies.
Ben Lilliston is a farm and trade policy analyst who's looked at the influence of big grain companies, like Cargill, Bunge, and Archer Daniels Midland.
These 4 big grain companies control almost 80% of the market in the U.S., and in many regions of the country, there's only 1 or 2 of them. Farmers are relatively weak players in the system, price takers in economic terms, meaning they have to take the price that the grain company offers.
We cannot negotiate with a buyer like ADM or Cargill and say, no, $10 isn't good enough, I'll give you my soybeans for 12. They'll just go, well, okay, get out, go on then. We have leverage against nobody. We are under monopoly rule on the input and the output side.
The global grain companies buy crops from farmers often below cost and turn them into processed food, animal feed, and biofuels.
They want as much product on the market as they possibly can get. They don't want any limitations, and they want to pay prices as cheap as they possibly can when they're buying corn or soy or whatever.
For decades, they've lobbied for free trade deals that allow them to move crops across borders without cost, claiming this will benefit American farmers.
We think trade, whether it be NAFTA or elsewhere, is a good thing. And the American agricultural economy has benefited significantly since NAFTA was put in place.
It's been sold to farmers that we're going to control global markets and this is going to lift prices for you and make it very profitable for you. Unfortunately, that hasn't actually worked. It's actually been a race to the bottom.
American farmers now find themselves in competition with farmers in Argentina and Brazil to sell their soybeans. For many years, China was their biggest buyer, but since Trump's trade wars began, China has pivoted to South America. That's been bad for US farmers, but not for the global grain companies like Cargill, which is among the biggest agricultural exporters in Argentina and Brazil.
Their interest is very different than a national interest like the United States, our interest, or even a community level interest.
So far, the Trump administration has not followed through this year with an aid package for farmers. But in October, Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced that the U.S. would extend a $40 billion financial lifeline to prop up Argentina and its government led by Javier Milei.
I mean, we bailed out my competition. I mean, they're my competition. And we sent taxpayer dollars to them like it was no big deal and hurt my market. Milei is big buddies with our current administration. The biggest investors in Argentina are big buddies with Bessent. I mean, they worked together for years.
Bessent, a former hedge fund manager, owns thousands of acres of U.S. farmland, from which he has earned around $1 million a year.
China has been boycotting American soybeans. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there?
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too.
When Trump and Scott Bessent say, we're for the farmers, we love the farmers, I'd say same thing that my papa and everybody's always told me. Don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. It's that simple. What have they done to help us at all?
Trump's Justice and Agriculture departments recently announced a joint investigation into high input costs and the relationship to corporate consolidation of the farm economy. But it's just the latest in over a decade of similar federal investigations that have failed to stop mergers or break up existing monopolies.
The first thing we need to address is no competition. Because when there's no competition, I have no option, and I have to take whatever these people are willing to give me.
If the Trump administration responds to this crisis with another toothless antitrust investigation, another farm bailout, and another Band-Aid deal with China, nothing will fundamentally change for American farmers.
We're probably going to have to break up those companies. And I think that's the larger story. Is this really a resilient farm system? Or should we be thinking differently about maybe not overproducing so much for export and start to think about producing more food that Americans actually eat and diversifying what people produce? We used to have more of a supply management system, but we've gotten rid of that.
Supply management is the name for policies that establish price floors for important crops so that farmers don't have to fear operating at a loss year after year.
Give us a price floor, which makes us performance-based. So if you guarantee me $12.50 a bushel for my beans, it costs $11.50 to raise them. You've guaranteed me $1 a profit on the bushels, right? Then it's on me to go do the work. I go make the bushels so that I increase my profit. Would that not make more sense? Would that not kind of end the bailout program if you had a floor?
But the big ag companies hate this.
No, because they want us beholden to them.
Cargill and ADM is forced to pay farmers fairly in the market versus taxpayers having to subsidize.
One study found that a supply management system could have saved taxpayers nearly $100 billion in farm aid payments over 2 decades. Instead, that money largely flowed through farmers to some of the world's largest corporations.
We need to think about what's best for farmers, what's best for rural communities, the workers in the system, and consumers. And right now we have a system that's what's best for global grain companies, global meat companies, and the input suppliers.
Okay. All right, Steve. There's a lot that was in there. I wrote down a few quotes that I want to ask you about. And also I saw a question from a viewer that I want to ask you about as well that I thought was so good, because I'm reminded that not everybody sees every show. And so, yes, I do want to make sure to point out that it looks like this interview happened and this video was done at about 2 months ago, is what I guesstimate or estimate. Since then, there has been a program that was announced. And what was it? It was 12 trillion. Billion. Sorry, I keep saying trillion. So $12 billion. Now, I do want to say that in that, they talk about the program or the money that was given over to Argentina and Brazil, and that was 40 billion. So how is it that we sent to another country, which is our farmers' competition? The man even says it in the interview. How are we sending 40 over there, and we're only helping our own farmers who are dying financially, and by the way, committing suicide, like you mentioned a couple of shows back when you were here? You said, please don't do it. If you're thinking about it, call me, reach out to me. And you brought our attention to that as well. So when I watched this video, my jaw was on the floor on Saturday, because just about everything you've been telling us, this video confirms from other ways. And so we got people who are so destitute and so distraught that our farmers committing suicide. The lady said she had 5 different clients that were farmers that had committed suicide this year. And so how is it that we're only getting 12 billion here in the United States, but we sent $40 billion? How does this make sense?
It doesn't make sense. So if I can explain this too. So let's go back 40 years. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody in here needs to understand that all these farmers that are growing these GMO crops that are from seeds of Pioneer, Monsanto, and that they use these chemicals and all these GMO seeds. If we go back 40 years, you'll realize that these farms have been gradually pushed into this system to do this. Okay. And now we grow too much corn, too much wheat, and too much soybean, and too much cotton. And now we have Brazil and Argentina and all these big countries that can grow it a lot cheaper than us. And we don't have the out. The only trade people, we do not consume enough of these products, which nobody wants soy boys anyway, right? So you got soybean. So let's talk about this part where farmers have been pushed into this. And just so you know, I know that the guy mentioned that this was done under Obama, but what you have to realize is in the previous administration under George Bush, you'll realize that he is the one that allowed the patenting of seeds. And when the patenting of seeds happened, that's when Monsanto and Bayer became very, very powerful. Because the thing about it is, and this is, somebody said this the other day, they said the Democrat Party and the Republican Party are the two wings of the same bird, and the bird is Israel. So what you have to understand is that it looks like to me, if you start playing this ping pong game, Bush does the seed deal, Obama does this deal, Clinton does this deal, and then we're back in, and then Trump's doing this deal, and nothing is profiting the farmer or agriculture, is detrimental. And what you have to realize is that Trump tried to play this tariff game with China and all these other foreign countries, and it backfired on him. So we usually sell about $25 billion in soybean to China. Well, all crops in the corn, wheat, soybean, cotton, and rice, all of them lost $100 to $350 per acre. Corn growers lost $16 billion this year. Soybean lost $25 billion. So what you have to understand is that Trump's bragging about this plan coming out on last Monday and saying we're going to give $12 billion. Well, where did the $12 billion come from? He says it's tariff money. Well, you know what tariff money comes from? It comes from you. Didn't that tariff money, because China shipped a product in here and it went up. China didn't eat that money. They went up on the product that you buy, and you're the one that's doing it. So Trump brags about his tariff money. And if he took the $12 billion of your money, it's not money you made off China. It's your money. The tariff money is your money. You got punished, especially the middle class. And then what happens is there was only $12 billion. Well, that's half. It's not even half, actually, of the payment to the soybean growers. So what happens is, if you wanted to bail out just one of the five, they only got 12 billion out of 25 billion. So that means Trump gave them 12 billion to the soybean growers. Oh, then he made a final sale to China for 12 billion. There's still $1 billion in a hole. And this is what you understand. So don't blame the farmer for being in the shape he's in. We're going to give, my new plan gives all these guys an off ramp to change the game. And if they want to continue to spray and you want to eat that stuff, I don't know how many of y'all still eat wheat or bread out of the grocery store, but it's garbage. But that's the issue, is understanding what has happened. These giant companies have taken over this market, and they can make money on this farm, whether it gains money or loses money, if you understand the stock market.
Okay. So there are a few things that I don't think I even understood, even with all of our conversations and watching this video even a second time. So I want to make sure that even though I had missed it, I want to make sure my viewers don't miss some important parts. So the first part is the trade war. So he says, when it comes to this trade war, he says, quote unquote, tariffs are the final nail in the coffin. So now that you just heard what Steve says, now you understand what Steve's been saying here on the Michelle Moore Show for quite a few months now. Okay. He's been saying, this is horrible. This is horrible. You don't understand. Nobody has helped damage the farmers more than Donald Trump. And it's like shocking stuff that Steve has said to us. It's been kind of like, shaking us awake and hearing some things that we didn't know. The man said a couple of times, the farmer, Adam Chappelle, he says, they're laundering our tax money. Okay. Later in the video, toward the end, they were talking about, look, the big ag corporations, let's call them big ag corporations. So you got Monsanto, John Deere, all these different ones, right? They're all in on it in different aspects, right? And so he said it's them not giving a fair shake to the farmers so that the taxpayers, that's all us, okay, just in case you need to check the scorecard, see who's on first, who's on second. Okay, we're the taxpayers, and of course the government doesn't have a service or a product that it sells. So they have to get their money from somebody. So they shake us down. So we're the taxpayers. And so what we do is we get forced to subsidize it. How is it subsidized? That's what point was made in the video. It's an excellent video. We will be uploading it to the channel, the Rumble channel, after today's show, or have the link to it. So in today's show description. So producer Ron put in the comments how they'll see it and access it. And I'll let everybody know before the show is over. Okay. So that is another point that I want to make sure people realize. I also wanted, when he said that about the $40 billion going to Argentina and Brazil, I almost fell over the other day when I heard that and said, wait a minute. That's like less than a third. We got less than a third. That's more than 3 times what our farmers here supposedly got. When you talk about $12 billion here that he's bragging about last week, okay, that money doesn't add up. He says, the farmer, Adam Chappelle, also says, that his I think it was his father said old saying that his father said, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. We all know that. And so I thought he made a good point. He confirmed, the video confirmed about the suicides, like what you said. He says that farm debt is at a record high of $560 billion. Well, with a B. Okay, so let's think about this. So what has Steve been telling us? So I heard that this time that some of these numbers, I knew they were coming and I wanted to write them down. So I got to thinking about it and I thought, the other day you said to us, you laughed at the $12 billion and said that you might as well get up in the back of a pickup truck and and pee to the wind or something like that, pee in the wind, because that 12 billion ain't going to do anything. Okay. So this tells us that farm debt is at a new record high. They say this in the video, and I wrote it down. And it says $560 billion. So you're talking about the 12 billion, if it were to even go to the farmers, I guess it goes to their credit holders, is what he was explaining. So who really wins in this situation are the people that they owe all the money to, that they get really kind of, raped and pillaged by. So by Monsanto, by Deere and all these other companies, Bayer and Cargill. And so they're just turning the money over. They're not making any money at the end of the day because they're just getting raped and pillaged by all these big companies. Because, like with the fertilizer companies, they said in that that video also that there used to be 46 fertilizer companies, and now there's only 4. So now you have a lack of competition. And so see what's going on here. This is what the video has been confirming, and a lot of this has to do with things that we've been hearing as well from Steve. He says, so, okay, I thought that was interesting. I forget the guy's name that's got the weird voice and he's bald and he's the financial guy. And he says there's a boom market of insane proportions. And that goes back to the laundering of our tax dollars that the guy said a couple of times in the video. So look, and even in that small town, he said something, I don't know that I wrote it down exactly, but this is the spirit in which he was saying. He says every time the ag plan or a farmer fails, whatever that looks like, he goes, rural America dies. So that made me think about the New World Order. They want us in cities that they can control us in. They want us where it's all concrete. You live, you eat, you work, you play there. And they sell it like that, at least in our area in Nashville. It's complete Wokeville in Nashville. It is nothing like it used to be. In fact, my friends all make comments about how we don't even recognize this place, especially since the slowing of the spread. There was an onslaught of people that relocated here, and it is just, it's just concrete everywhere, and it is Wokeville. And so crazy stuff. And it's not the conservative town that it used to be. So Steve, with me saying all this, what are your thoughts?
So what you have to understand too is Brian Massard and I's plan is to do away with subsidies. Subsidies are just taking money from taxpayers, paying farmers to survive, and they're not surviving. When they get these subsidies, they just roll their notes, they just go more in debt, and they farm again next year hoping it'll work out. Our farm plan changes that whole game. No more subsidies. We're going to create a whole different model for this, how this works. And if the interest rates get dropped and lowered, they can survive. We have to change some of the crops we're doing in the United States, but the American people have to start waking up where they can buy their food and buy it from a local farmer. And please don't go on all these funky websites where you have to order all this stuff. Please just do a Google ChatGPT and find out farms. Put your zip code in ChatGPT. What's a farm where I can buy beef, chicken, corn, whatever you eat, and then put it in there, and then that search will go out from your zip code all the way out to the ends of the United States, and it'll tell you where you can buy these things. And that's the way you change this game. But we're not going to change this through subsidies, and the subsidies or the $12 billion. And then what they do is, to the normal American, even to me, 12 billion, I don't have that many zeros in anything I ever do. But $12 billion, it sounds like a lot of money, and 700 million sounds like a lot of money. And actually it's nothing. It's zero. And it's actually your tax dollars. It's not, because not only that, if you just look at the columns of where they're sending money overseas, and that's what Brian Massard and I have talked about, there's $40 million a week that goes to the Taliban in Afghanistan. We are funding the Taliban. We send them $40 million in cash every single week. And we not only do that, but we send $40 billion a year. We have since 2021 to Ukrainian farm to vet program, or vet to farmer program.
What is that vet to farm program?
It's to help people who make it off the front lines with Ukraine and Russia for PTSD farm plan. Yeah, for Ukraine. So they're doing it in Ukraine, and no, none of the farms have gotten that incentive here in America.
And we're paying money to the Taliban?
$40 million a week.
Is this what was part of the plan that just got passed
No,
as well?
it's Tim Burchett. It's y'all's representative. In Tim Burchett, is he Tennessee?
I don't know.
He's rather Tennessee or Kentucky, one or the other. He's still a redneck from y'all's part of the world. He's the one that pointed out the $40 million going to Taliban every week.
He's the one that pointed it out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody can look it up. Just type in Tim Burchett, $40 million going to the Taliban. I'm sure the news show will come up. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And this is all under, with President Trump, it just doesn't make sense. And so Black Diamond says that they don't care what we want. Only a true revolution would change anything sad but true. I had seen a question earlier. I wanted to make sure that was on YouTube, Steve, that I wanted to make sure that we got to. They were asking about the money. So what about the bill that Trump signed for billions of money for farmers? They're talking about the one from last week that we were talking about. So Shelley, I wanted to make sure I gave you a chance to explain that. And I think we did a little bit, but was there anything you wanted to add for Shelley?
Shelley, $12 billion is your tax dollars. It's not money they made over things on the other side of the world selling to China. China has moved to buy soybean and grains, and you're going to see this is going to move faster and faster. If everybody looks up the word BRICS, BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. If you look at these countries, they are teaming up to go against the American public. Yes. And these big heavy hitters in Washington, D.C., they know this. And the only way out of this, is there's $580 billion that is given in the church program, which we didn't discuss this, Michelle, but I'm going to throw this out here.
Sure.
There's $580 billion given in donations to the churches in the United States of America. Only 6 cents out of every dollar. So what I need you to do is all you people that are donating to all these dead churches and stuff, is if you want to get involved with saving America, if you don't save the agrarian culture and the agriculture families that are left in this nation, we don't do this by 2030, Michelle and I won't need to have a show anymore. It'll be about.
Well, I know about these stats, and I just want to say, you're trying to say that 6 cents of every dollar that you give goes to actually helping people, and that's actually not an accurate statement. What it is it's, if you go back and watch what Nathan said, it's 6 cents of every dollar is they can't account for it. And so they just say that that's the actual highest amount that could actually be going to help and going to, feed the needy, the orphans, all that kind of stuff. But they can't even say that it's 6 cents on every dollar that is even going to help those that that are in need. I think I mentioned this on the show last week at one point. Maybe it was when you were on, but I read a book by I forget her name, but it was the one who wrote Thanks for the Memories. Ford, was it Susan Ford? I forget her name, but she was in the MK Ultra program. She wrote a book. And she talked about this. She said, okay, when you have these big world leaders that do their big, World Health Organization meeting or this meeting and that meeting, and then they get behind the doors, and then they come out and they announce that they've passed $40 billion for water well in South Africa. She's like, it's all a lie. She said, think about it. And if you think about it, like how many millions of dollars and how many decades have we been hearing that there's going to be water wells in South Africa and all these millions and millions of dollars, but yet somehow they still need to send more millions and millions of dollars. She says it's a lie. They're lying. Not a dollar is going to South Africa for water wells. And they know that you'll just fall for it. And she talked about it. I think it's Susan Ford. But anyways, she wrote a book and it's called Thanks for the Memories. And she was trafficked and she claims she was owned by Bob Hope. And, that was a line that he used to say all the time is thanks for the memories. She also talked about, all different kinds of things that have to do with stuff that the craziness that went on, just crazy stuff. So anyways, but and Tim Burchett is Tennessee. Yes. Thank you. I couldn't remember who's Tennessee or Kentucky. But anyways, and so, yeah, I don't see things getting better. And that's the point. And so it's not good. It's not good. And, they act like $2,000. Like, I don't know where we are with this whole thing about everybody getting $2,000 of this money from the tariffs. But they act like when people talk about it, they almost act like $2,000 is a lot of money. I'm like, well, I mean, how is it? Just like what you said, we are looking at funding all of the things that are going on because China's not going to just eat that money. And so we've all been talking about how expensive everything is, right?
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 is a drop in the bucket to cover all of the things that you're buying at the grocery store this year. Think about it. Start adding up how much money you've spent on food and clothing and gas that hasn't gone down to where it needs to be or should be. And that's the other thing too, is once it goes up, does it ever hardly go down? So once something goes up in price, a can of green beans, does it go down? I just don't see it. King's Cruise and RV says $2,000 in bribery money. I mean, I think in a way, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it bribery money. What I would call it is like, just BS money, really. It's just a story they're selling. And so, just to try to, I don't know, snow you over. They're not bribing you because then I feel like that is more like you're a willing party to go along with something. But they're just stowing over the American people and lying about it. Yeah. I mean, I still can't. Let's go back to the South America gets $40 billion and our people get $12 billion. I'm still on that. I'm sorry, but even with the 12 and the 40 that you're talking about 52, that's still not enough. So, but you see what I'm saying? Like the guy said in the video, they gave $40 billion to my competition. I mean, this is absolute insanity. And what he said was, and I just have to wonder, when he's saying that, big ag or when agriculture loses, rural America dies. And so I think this is a systematic way of trying to take out, big ag and our independence. And before you know it, you blink and, everybody's living in the city and, just to try to be fed. And we're walking everywhere because now you're not allowed because you're going to own nothing and be happy. You're not going to allowed to have a car. I mean, there are these new places, like that place called Cul-de-sac out in Arizona. There's nowhere to park a car in the entire town they built, so, but you eat there, you live there, you work there, and you play there. That's the big slogan. That's the big thing. That's the big draw. And there's concrete everywhere. And, good luck if you got a dog that needs to ground and you that needs to ground. Yeah, good luck with that. And so, see what I'm saying? And I'm seeing it all over Nashville. And there are those, condo buildings.
Well, the way to change this is the people that watch this show, you have to change what you do with your money. You can make huge effects on what's going on by what you do with your dollars. So, like, for instance, I just dropped my farm school to $500. And in my farm school, I also have a moon phase calendar attached to that. You as a person, an individual, you can go in there and watch your kids. You should show it to them. But the issue is that you should do something to store food and learn to buy in bulk. You can buy the best food. You can buy the best steak, best pork, best chicken, and learn how to store it the right way. And you can cut your grocery bill by a third and have the best food there is. But you have to change the way you're doing things. And when you do change and you do buy from a farmer and you do buy beef, pork, vegetables, and you learn to store in bulk, because the worst thing that can happen is that you as an individual say, I want to support a farmer, and you go to a farmer's market and you buy 3 pounds of potatoes. This is a joke, folks. Okay. You should walk up there. He should be sold out and you should go home so you can grow some more. Okay. That's the way it works. And you have to get educated and you have to do this. My school teaches you how to can food, how to do things the old ways. And that is what is important. Even if you're not going to farm, you can butcher. You could buy, listen, you live in a cul-de-sac, you got a high fence. Fine. So what you're going to do, you're going to drive down the road, make sure it's 32 degrees. You go to a farm, ask the farmer, can you shoot the pig for him? You're going to pull that back. You're going to put a black sack around it. I know your neighbor's going to call in and they're hauling a body into the backyard. No, you're just going to butcher a pig. You can do this. And my videos show you how to do this. So please, if you're in the city and you tell me you can't do this, this is false.
Yeah. It was Susan Ford. She goes by Bryce Taylor, by the way, that was owned, claims to have been trafficked and owned by Bob Hope. Cousin is asking, what happened to Doge? What happened with them? Great question. You got any input on that? Have you heard anything when you were with MAHA and in Washington? Did you ever hear anything about the Doge stuff that was going on?
Yes. It cost the American taxpayer $29 million and nothing got cut. Is that simple enough answer? It cost America, it cost $29 million to do Doge, and they moved all that junk to the other 14 agencies. Then nothing happened with that. That's a joke. You play it again. And that's what you got to learn. You got to learn. And that's what, and so for those of you, here's the comments that I hate. Well, the Trump and the administration, that's all BS. You're never going to change that. God told me to go there and do this. Here's the issue. You know why I believe God told me to go there and do this? And yes, I left almost, a few days after one complete year. You know why I believe God sent me there? To tell them, if you'll go this way, you'll save the nation. So that way, when they stand in judgment for the creator of the universe, they're going to say, oh, you remember that redneck out there in Appalachia? It was kind of the guy that, was really hardcore and you didn't like him that well. Well, he was trying to tell you to go the right way and you didn't. So now I'm telling the public, okay, we gave the government a chance. They're not going to do it. So now it's your turn.
That's good. Okay. So Ann Coates is asking Steve, say again, how can we help?
Help me personally or help yourself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I got to talk about, I want to go back. I want to back up here. So right before we went live, I have to say, I found out some information. I mentioned this earlier in the show. I did not know. And so Steve, I was like, what are you talking about? So you said that we were talking about your moon phase calendar. And I asked you if the new one was up. I have this year, so I'm getting ready to buy the 2026 one since it's up now. And so we were talking about it. And I asked you, I said, so as a perspective from a farmer, like, are farmers looking at the moon phase calendar right now? And you were explaining yes and why and all of that, because I'm like, well, they're not looking to plant seeds this week, while everything's frozen. So, is there something they need to know? And you were explaining all that to me. So you said, but hey, what about this recent announcement with the Farmer's Almanac? And I had no idea. So this is a whole nother bunny trail, or rabbit trail. So you said that they have now announced that the last year that they're going to do the Farmer's Almanac is 2026. But then you proceeded to tell me, well, it ain't accurate anyways. And it's been around forever and blah, blah, blah. And then then you start thinking, oh yeah, it's not accurate. And of course it's not. So explain to us what's going on.
So what you have to realize is there, if you'll just divide your life into order and out of order, okay? In the world of out of order, it's just chaos, okay? Whether it's your children, your finances, your car, your mother-in-law, whatever. But there is an order to creation. And by the way, there used to be, and I meant to send you, I have the actual picture of the 1928 original calendar that was 13 months. Okay, it used to be 13 months. And I meant to send that to you, and I didn't do it. I forgot. Okay. But in the original calendar, there was 13 months. So all of y'all have been working 13 months all your life, and you've been getting paid for 12. So that's just the start of the chaos.
Yeah.
Not only that, how you treat things, when you deworm your animals, when you should cut your hair, when you should do a surgery, all these things, these have been put in an out of order system so that you would not know how to do certain things in your life that makes your life more profitable. And so my moon phase calendar, I am the last guy left in the United States of America who writes the moon phase calendars. And I use the 13 moon phase cycles of the moon. And I do use, there's 13 signs of the zodiac. I only use 12 of those. But those are, and please don't get spooky in that. I take all that devil stuff out of it the way, and I use it the way they did, the way your great great grandpa did. And I'm the last guy left. And if you will use this moon phase calendar, ladies, you want to cut your hair, you buy my moon phase calendar. When it shows a green arrow up, ladies, you got problems with your hair growing, just go to buy my moon phase calendar and just look at all the green arrows up, schedule all your hair appointments. Now, listen, every lady in America does that. We got a problem in the butcher, in the hair.
In the butcher shop.
Let's face it, some of them do butcher your hair. Let's just face it.
Crazy. You were so crazy.
Oh my God.
Okay. I want to go back before we let you go. I want to talk about this interview that you did early on. So you go to DC and the MAHA Institute media kind of group. I remember you telling me about this interview and you kept saying it's going to be out anytime. And before you knew it, there was a big delay for about 2 months. So, I look at the enemy. I've always told people one of the biggest ways that the enemy works is that he uses doubt. But, that's just specifically, it's just like what he said to Jesus, when Jesus came up out of the water, God said to my son, to whom I'm well pleased, right? And then what did Satan say to him in the wilderness? He said, well, if you are the Son of God. So he tried to plant seeds of doubt. And I've always said, I think that distraction, keep you busy so that you're not doing the things you need to do. So there's distraction is another one. And so, I think there's definitely ways that people can also, I think the government can also sabotage while looking like they're trying to do so much greatness. And I think that there's a lot of that, just like what I said about the nothing burger, about Florida passing that, about the chemtrail stuff. And, people get all excited. Tennessee, ever since the Tennessee thing, I've caught on and said, yeah, that ain't gonna ever happen. Just like DeSantis saying that, talking about the property taxes and that Floridians shouldn't be paying property taxes. Well, all I know is they're still paying property taxes. And I bet if we really dug into it, is Disney paying? Because, Disney, that's a whole thing that where they're like self-governed and they don't pay taxes and there's all this stuff. And it was a big brouhaha. And I bet none of that happened. I bet they're all still self-governed and still doing whatever they want to do over at old Disney down in Florida. So anyways, that keeps going and going and going. It's a bunch of nothing burgers and we're not getting anywhere. But a lot of it is to keep us chasing our tail thinking, oh, it's finally something's going to happen. Oh, something's finally going to happen. And they do that stuff. I think part of it is to set these people up to run for office. I go, oh, he's the one that wanted to, I bet he fixed that stuff with Disney. And he's talking about, well, he hadn't gotten it done yet about the whole thing with the property taxes, but maybe he'll get it done if he were to be president or if he were to, we reelect him again. It's just like the other day, somebody's talking about in Texas, what is it now that, Abbott's doing, the governor? And I'm like, well, how long's he been governor and why now? Nothing. I smell skunk. Ain't nothing happening. I'm just saying. And so, and I'm a very positive person, but I'm also realistic. And I just see this trend keep going and going and going. Well, with the politicians and with some of this, it's a red flag when there is a delay. Let's just call it a delay. So what in the world took so long to produce this interview? I mean, what happened? So we're going to play the first 2 minutes of it. I'm going to let you explain about the situation and what happened and how long and all that, because I want the people to see some of this interview that was just so complicated, I guess, to produce and, for them to get it out. And then we'll play it in its entirety after we finish up with Steve in a little bit. All right, let's watch the first 2 minutes, producer Ron.
If you take only 1/3 of that 50% of the children that have those illnesses and you heal them with good food, the Medicare and Medicaid money will pay for the farm plan.
That's right.
Everybody knows that there's a major problem and we all are ready to fix it and we're ready to do it quickly. And my farm plan is a war plan and it does it in 5 years. I'm 57 years old. I did spend 7 years on my deathbed when I was younger. I have not been back to the doctor in 35 years for anything. And food is key because when you get nutrient-dense food and it's good, then you become healthy. So MAHA, this is the avenue. You just got to get fresh food right on the table.
I'm Caitlin Sinclair. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a man with a plan here with us today. That is a farmer's plan. Steve, so great to have you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I want to hear, what is the farmer's plan? A little introduction for our viewers who aren't familiar with your work, and tell us about the plan.
Yeah, well, I'm a fifth generation farmer. And so we farmed 40 acres in Texas. We live in Idaho now, but we used to sell 500,000 pounds of food off 35 acres. So we know how to do the small farm. So I wrote a farm plan for RFK on November 9th, 2024. We didn't know he was going to be here, but we were hopeful he was. And so I wrote a farm plan to create 1 million new 40-acre farms. And it's a wartime plan, but it also has 10,000 processing centers that would be added to. That makes the food only travel 225 miles from each farm. Not only that, my processing team, that builds all the processing centers. This makes food nutrient dense and things like that. I just got a phone call before I came into the meeting this morning. They have $500 million to put towards the processing side of this, all ready to do this. They can have the money.
Okay, so that took how long to release?
So everybody has to understand that was May 27th when I made that video. I was invited. I was there, spoke at the MAHA Institute. I was fresh meat on the table there that I had all this big plan. I'm actually the only person in the United States or even in the MAHA group that actually has written an entire plan. Well, I've written several plans, but actually at that point, that was the only person. I'm the only person still that was there. That's another reason I left. And that did not get released until July 27th. So 60 days later. And this is huge, folks, because the thing is that only got 118 views and it's just been stuck out there in Never Land and people don't know. And I was giving the answers on how this should be. And Bobby Kennedy came out of farm and then nothing happens out of it. Listen, they know how to play hardball. And in my new plan that I'm working on right now, this is where you come in personally, no matter, even if you live in an apartment.
It's insane. I don't understand it. I saw something I wanted to read to the audience and to you. Yes, Patriot Sister 7 says that they are still Kimming Florida and my property taxes doubled. He lies. I told y'all. Yeah. In fact, that doesn't surprise me that the property taxes doubled, because when they start talking about doing away with the property taxes, that's usually what happens. It gets worse. Oh, and the chemtrailing, she says they're still Florida. I don't think anybody's got it as bad as Florida. I have had people send me that are down in Florida vacationing, that are friends and people who live in Florida. And I have never seen so many checkerboards in my life as I have from Florida the skies in Florida. It's insane. It is insane. Patriot Sister 7. I don't know how you do it. And Mark Taylor tells me about it all the time because he lives in Florida and he says it's insane down there for sure. Okay. So Steve, that first 2 minutes was excellent. I've seen it. It's a great video. We're going to play it in its entirety. Before we let you go, do you have anything else that you would like to share? I do want to say, so your moon phase calendar that Steve was talking about, let's talk about that in your website. So both of those links are already in today's show description on the Michelle Moore Show Rumble channel on Rumble. So just want to make sure everybody knows that on the Michelle Moore Show Rumble channel for today's show. If you go to the show description, every link there for you that you could ever need for anything that we talk about on each show. So all your resources and stuff are there. Steve, anything that you'd like to share before we go?
Okay, so on my website, sassusa.com, that they've put up there, I've just reduced my school from $2,000 to $500. In that school, I teach, if you go to that school, I teach you how to learn how to do the moon phase calendar without all the demonic junk in it, okay? What you have to realize is 1910, 1913, that's all got shifted. It got changed, and they used it to read your horoscope and all that stuff. And that I take all that out and I'll teach you how to do that. So $500, you can use that. Homeschool moms, here's what you should do. Get 20 kids, have a classroom every Saturday, go in there, watch the class, learn to farm, learn to can your own food. And this spring, I'm going to show people. I had an old man years and years and years ago show me how to build an organic septic system that you never have to pump. That system is in my house that I left in Texas. It's been there 32 years, and I'm going to show people how to build their own. It's mind-boggling how well it works. And what it does is you'll never have to do anything, pump your septic system. I show exactly how to do this. You can build this whole system for about $1,800 for your house, and you never have to do it, especially if you want to live off grid.
Well, I homeschooled my boys, and I sure wish I would have had your plan. I would have done that. You know, it's hard anyways when you homeschool for the electives and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Because I'm their teacher and all that. So we had some great things, but I would have loved that. Absolutely loved it. That's such a great idea. Okay, so all the links, and producer Ron, would you put please his website link on the bottom third there? Yeah, sas-usa.com. Thank you so much, Steve, for coming on. I just appreciate, sometimes it's not, you've red pilled us on some stuff. It's been hard to hear in the last, 5-6 months. There's been some stuff you've said, like, it was hard to hear you say, like, let me tell you who's done the worst bit of, farm to the farmer. Okay, President Donald J. Trump. It's like, what is he talking about? And so it's been very difficult because, we are pulling for him. We want him to succeed. We're thinking he's working for us, and we don't know what's going on, but it's not good. We're not seeing some good signs. And like you said, this whole thing with the tariffs, we're the ones paying for it. So
the last comment I'm going to make, it's a positive to know that the bus is going over the cliff and you got off.
Jeez. Oh, my word. Okay. Black Diamond said that you should be on Joe Rogan. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so Galen Starr says that she just paid $6,000 for property taxes in Texas. Ridiculous. Yes, it is ridiculous. Oh, my goodness. Yes. $6,000 for property that she owns. In Texas. I didn't know Texas was that high on property taxes. Jeez Louise. Wow. Wow. All right, honey. Thank you so much for being here with us. Keep us updated. He's got other meetings and things he's doing. He's got a plan. And so as that progresses, we'll have him back to give you guys updates. But I wanted him here today on Saturday when I spoke with him after seeing that video that we just played a little while ago. I said, you got to come on. If you left MAHA, you've got to come back. You got to explain it. I was really hoping he wasn't, when he said that people were saying, don't leave MAHA, please don't leave. Yeah, I was one of them. But I also recognize he's got great connections. He's going to know what's going on. Is still going to be able to get us information and to share with us what's, really the down and dirty of what's going on. So be sure to keep your eyes peeled for any announcements about him coming back and make sure that you keep up with what he's sharing. So also, don't forget about visiting his website and looking at that moon phase calendar. Little Flash Moore is on some fenbendazole, and I didn't think about that, but I need to look at that calendar. And so today is day 2 of a 3-day fenbendazole thing. So he's getting his parasite cleanse. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so got that. We're going to show you this video in its entirety, this interview that he did. So this is called the MAHA Institute. And the way Steve explained it was that it was like their media arm. But how do you only have 118 views? That's what I asked him. I said, what is going on? Okay. So, and then I see a viewer says, if you keep paying taxes, do you really own it? No, they'll put a lien on your house. So yeah, just because there's no mortgage doesn't mean that they still won't steal it from you, honey. Okay, so let's go on ahead and see the rest of this interview that he did. It's explaining about his plan, his farm plan that many of you have seen his other interviews with me, and we've talked about this in great detail about his farm plan. I think that he did a great job. Like he said, he was the only American that showed up in DC with a plan. By the way, I'm the one that pointed out to him. He woke up, the Holy Spirit had woke him up and told him to write this plan. And it was on November the 9th. And I said, did you say November the 9th? And he said, yes. And I go, well, that's 9/11 backwards. And so he goes, oh my goodness, it is. And I was like, yeah, there's an emergency. All right. And so I thought that was so good. So we'll watch the rest of this interview, and I will see you right here tomorrow, next time on the Michelle Moore Show. Let's see.
If you take only 1/3 of that 50% of the children that have those illnesses and you heal them with good food, the Medicare and Medicaid money will pay for the farm plan.
That's right.
Everybody knows that there's a major problem and we all are ready to fix it and we're ready to do it quickly. And my farm plan is a war plan and it does it in 5 years. I'm 57 years old. I did spend 7 years on my deathbed when I was younger. I have not been back to the doctor in 35 years for anything. And food is key because when you get nutrient-dense food and it's good, then you become healthy. So MAHA, this is the avenue. You just got to get fresh food right on the table.
I'm Caitlin Sinclair. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a man with a plan here with us today. That is a farmer's plan. Steve, so great to have you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So I want to hear, what is the farmer's plan? A little introduction for our viewers who aren't familiar with your work, and tell us about the plan.
Yeah, well, I'm a 5th generation farmer. And so we farmed 40 acres in Texas. We live in Idaho now, but we used to sell 500,000 pounds of food off 35 acres. So we know how to do the small farm. So I wrote a farm plan for RFK on November 9, 2024. We didn't know he was going to be here, but we were hopeful he was. And so I wrote a farm plan to create 1 million new 40-acre farms. And it's a wartime plan, but it also has 10,000 processing centers that would be added to. That makes the food only travel 225 miles from each farm. Not only that, my processing team, that builds all the processing centers. This makes food nutrient dense and things like that. I just got a phone call before I came into the meeting this morning. They have $500 million to put towards the processing side of this, all ready to do this. They can have the money up and running. So I'm here for MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. One of the things that people don't realize is that with MAHA, everybody's talking about childhood sickness.
Mm-hmm.
And childhood sickness, from 1 to 17, 50% of them all have a disease. Well, here, I want to say this. If we recreate all these 1 million farms, we have healthy food for these kids because school lunch programs is number one in my processing. We'll get good, healthy foods back in the school. But what's interesting is if you take only 1/3 of that 50% of the children that have those illnesses and you heal them with good food, the Medicare and Medicaid money will pay for the farm plan.
That's right.
It's when I started doing the research, I have a great team that works with me, that's awesome. But it is unbelievable how much money is spent on health care for these children and how bad sick they are. And food and school food is huge, what needs to change. And that's why we need the processing centers. The processing centers will process the food to make them, it'll be nutrient dense because the food will only be from the ground into the processing center in 48 hours. They'll be freeze-dried, canned, and dehydrated, but this will go back into the schools and it'll be great food for them and make them healthy. Also too, with the 1 million farms, only in 12 years, Uncle Sam won't even be in charge of these farms anymore. These will be back. We're basically going to recreate an agrarian society that's going to be making our society healthier again because we know that AI and lab-grown food is full bore. And we know this is
happening. I know
it's
people
happening.
don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it is happening. And so the thing about it is we need to rebuild America. It will make rural America strong. Our processing centers are talking about redoing Kmart's that are old, empty buildings and things like that. So it brings back rural American jobs. Old factories that just need some refurbishing, things like that. But we also have plans for brand new facilities.
A lot of plans, it sounds like.
It's big, folks. Really.
But we're in the works now. There's
That's right.
actually a light at the end of the tunnel that I think is visible to so many of us that have been in this fight for so long. Steve, I'm curious when you hear the term MAHA. Mm-hmm. I'd love to know, what does that mean to a 5th generation farmer like yourself?
MAHA to me is making America healthy again. You just got to get fresh food right on the table because me and my wife grow all our own food. We can all our own food. We render all our own tallow. We can and butcher all our own meat. And what people don't realize is I'm 57 years old and I did spend 7 years on my deathbed when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I have not been back to the doctor in 35 years for anything. And food is key because when you get nutrient-dense food and it's good, then you become healthy. So MAHA, this is the avenue. New farms, You get in the agricultural lifestyle, the old farms, that makes you healthy.
What would your advice be to your average American that's maybe just getting into this movement, just educating themselves, cleaning out the cabinets, trying to have a fresh start? What is a basic, easy plan for an American family to source healthy food? If they're looking to purchase from a farm online, or what's the best way for them to source healthy food?
Okay, so let's just say that, here's what I think too.
The basics.
The basics are, I think people are afraid to try to grow their own. And I have an online farm school, sas-usa.com, and what it does is it teaches you the way. There are basically 4 types of agriculture. There's the gardener, there's the homesteader, there's the rotary crop farmer, the old 40-acre farmer, that's me, and then you have giant ag. Well, but most people are afraid because they are afraid of failure. But one of the big avenues is don't be afraid to fail, and my farm school I'm the only farmer left in the United States of America who writes his own moon phase calendar that teaches you how to plant by the 13 signs of the moon. I know it sounds weird, folks, but this is
I believe it.
It's your green thumb. Our grandparents did this stuff. It was common knowledge to them. It was there, and this is what makes you successful in farming. Now, here's what I'd like to really encourage people. Let's say you're not going to grow your own food. What you need to do is learn to get a small storage facility that you can keep at the right temperature and learn to buy in bulk because you can save so much money. You can, if you'll buy, 100 to 300 pounds, one of the things about it is, I ask this to ladies all the time, how many pounds of food does your family eat? And you know what? Very few people know how much food that they eat.
What is the answer on average?
Well, the thing about it is, depends on how big the household is.
Okay.
But here's and the thing about it is what are you eating? That's what matters on poundage. But like what we do is, as a family, what we do every year as a farmer, we always put up enough food. We can and store enough food to feed 15 people for 3 years.
Are you freeze drying, only canning?
We only can the old way.
Okay.
We only can the old way. We can meat the old way. We do freeze a few steaks that we're going to eat, right away. But the issue is people are afraid of canning. They're afraid of these things, and then and it's really becoming popular and coming back again. That's what I would encourage people to do, is learn to store in bulk, buy in bulk. Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah. Okay. So get a storage facility, a small one. These are the basics. If the process of growing your own food isn't too daunting, even though you have a solution for that too. Okay. What is your main mission with the Farmer's Plan for the next few years that Bobby Kennedy is in this position he's in, and we have a lot of great people in this movement? What is your main goal and mission that you want to see through?
I hope I can say this on here, but my number one thing in my farm plan is to stop stratospheric aerosol injection. And let me tell you why. I came here, I made a video yesterday on social media. It just hit 320,000 views because I showed a 150-year-old apple tree that's burned, and I know when the plane came over, and I know my soils. I'm a 5th-generation farmer. I'm a master propagator. I know that something is killing these plants, and it's not anything that I'm doing, and I monitor the skies, and I know. And when you're a farmer and you're outside all the time, you pay attention. You know what's going on. And let me just tell you, if we don't stop stratospheric aerosol injection, there's 37,000 patents on it. There's also the bill that was approved to modify it, was done in 1972. I mean, let's say Ron DeSantis just passed a bill to stop it in Florida. So it's coming out now. But soil health, there's no such thing as organic food anymore. And this has to stop. It is hurting my small farm. I'm telling you, I know it. I watched plants change in 24 hours. So I believe with Secretary Kennedy and President Trump, J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, these are the guys I'd like to talk to, because this needs to stop, and then we work on glyphosate. I farm. I don't use glyphosate. I don't use herbicides. I always have. I don't know exactly what they're spraying, but I know it's harmful because it's harming the plant.
I think we need a full investigation into that. But glyphosate is just the basics of how harmful it is for fruits and vegetables and people that aren't necessarily sold on buying organic and don't know the significance of all of that. So again, this is all part of the larger conversation that we're finally having on a larger scale, on a national stage, and we couldn't all be more grateful for that. Steve, your final message out there for the farmer, for the young American that is confused on what to do right now, who to look to for information, your Instagram handle and what you're posting on there?
Okay, so I'm Out of the Wild 3D, and that's on Instagram, and I'm Agriman 3D on TikTok. So yeah, I know I'm 57, but I still am young at heart, and so I do that.
And what can our followers expect to find?
So on Out of the Wild 3D, I keep people posted. I've been talking about this. I talked about stratospheric aerosol injection. If you wanted this to stop, yesterday's video just hit 320,000 followers saying we want this to stop. But also in there, what's really interesting is I had thousands of people reach out to me from all over America and saying my tree looks exactly the same way. My tomatoes look exactly the same way. They're burnt just like yours. And we know it's the plains too. So I use my platform as a voice to encourage people to stand up and say something. You know what's interesting about this whole thing? I live in the middle of nowhere. I have 26,000 acres in my backyard. And I wrote this plan before I knew RFK. I saw an email after we knew RFK was going to be in the game, and I saw an email and it said MAHA team. If anybody has an idea how we can help America get healthy again, I said I have the plan.
I have a few.
I said I have the plan. So me and my business partner, we began to write, and we literally worked on this about 55 straight nights. Hours after hours after hours of continuous putting it all together. Then I had the processing guys I met that liked my farm plan. They said, we're on board with you. We love your plan. They said, we already process food now. We want better food for Americans. And look, if I had not sent that email in, if I had not worked on this plan, I wouldn't be sitting here today in this room. Who is Steve Jarvis? I live in the middle of nowhere, Paul H, Idaho. And I'm here. And I tell you what, this meeting really makes me hopeful. And I'll tell you why. Because social media can be brutal.
I know. Yes.
It can
preaching to the choir here.
It can elevate you and crucify you in the same day. And I want to tell everybody that I'm very excited about what has happened in this meeting today. Because here's what I believe that I'm hearing and sensing here is everybody knows that there's a major problem. And we all are ready to fix it, and we're ready to do it quickly. And my farm plan is a war plan, and it does it in 5 years.
Like you said, there's amazing people that are feeling that. They're feeling that four-letter word, hope.
That's exactly
right.
That's
from everyone's work, including your own. Steve, thank you so much for showing up with a plan. We love a man with a plan.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being in this fight. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
There aren't a lot of reasons to use Godly Granny products. There's every reason, because every time you twist or flip a cap on something from Godly Granny, you're voting no to chemicals and yes to common sense, but without all the electronic voting machines. With Godly Granny, there's no toxins, no chemicals, no endocrine disruptors, no cancer-chasing filler. Godly Granny is a small batch, made-to-order, deeply naturopathic wellness brand, founded on biblical truth. Formulated with pure purpose and handcrafted by saved folks who know that freedom doesn't come from fake lavender and phthalates. Go to godlygranny.com today. Be sure and use the discount code Michelle10 at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order.
Hi, I'm Linda Bamber Olson, the inventor of the Wave Watch, the world's first frequency therapy watch. It features over 1,100 targeted frequencies combined into 150 playlists for ease of use. These sounds are acoustical and they move through your body, through your skin and your bones. You don't necessarily have to hear it. As each frequency goes through, it can be realigning, revitalizing, reconnecting, and even rebalancing your body all the way to the cellular level. So that's why we have so many testimonies for aches, ADD and ADHD, allergies, colds and flu, dental, emotions, headaches, joints, kidney stones, nerves, organs, skin health, swelling, tremors, vagus nerve, and so many more. Use this code for $100 off when you purchase the Wave Watch. Thanks for learning about frequencies, using them, and supporting the Wave Watch.
Hi friends, it's Michelle Moore. And when it comes to protecting your retirement, I believe in taking smart, steady steps. Bank of America analysts call gold the ultimate safe haven, and when it comes to precious metals, I trust Universal Coin and Bullion, the official rare coin and bullion dealer of my show. They have been named the best in their industry both nationally and regionally by leading organizations. Consider a gold IRA, a time-tested way to diversify your portfolio with real tangible assets, which lets you move a portion of your retirement savings into physical gold, helping protect your wealth from inflation, market swings, and economic uncertainty. And Universal Coin and Bullion makes the process easy. From rollovers to delivery, they walk you through every step, even if you have one with another gold company. Protect what you've worked so hard to build from the team that I trust, Universal Coin and Bullion, at 800-321-8700, and make sure to tell them Michelle sent you.
For Michelle's social media links, go to michellemooreshow.com.